Old Gold Club, powered by Wolverhampton Building Supplies, with Mikey Burrows and Chris Iwelumo.
Welcome along to the Old Gold Club. I'm Mikey Burrows, alongside me as ever, Chris Iwelumo, and our guest this week spent 5 seasons at Molineux, making 120 appearances, scoring 22 goals and 19 assists as well. Welcome to the club, James Henry.
Hi, how are we?
I'm very well. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Is this almost, is this the first time you've been back?
No, I think I've been back to 1 game possibly. But yeah, it's nice to come back and have a look at the old stomping ground.
Well, the place must seem very different. I mean, the buildings are still the same, but
yeah, obviously it's a totally different club now. I expect to what it was when I was here, but you know, it's still amazing coming and see the stadium, and the facilities are still top notch.
In all fairness, I guess the atmosphere when you were here was excellent as well. The fans, what are the differences to now, would you say?
Obviously, just walking around the place, you know, even just walking through the tunnel and stuff, everything's changed. All the layout, the changing rooms and everything's different. But, you know, as soon as you walk out the tunnel, the stadium's still fantastic, isn't it? It's a great arena to play in.
Because the club, when you arrived, was obviously was just starting the road back from one of its lowest points of recent times.
Yeah, obviously they'd had a couple of back-to-back relegations, I think it was, and you know, it was a rebuilding process for the club, and you know, it seems to have worked, because look at them now.
What was it like when you first walked in? Because it was what Kenny Jackett gets you to come in.
Yeah, when I first walked through the door, I think I signed on loan originally with a view to a permanent, and they were I think they were 3rd or 4th in the league, so things were going in the right direction already, and you know, it was just a case of positivity around the club at that sort of time, and you know, it just kept growing and growing and growing the longer I was here.
You said that you signed on loan with a view to a permanent. Was that one of those a permanent when as soon as you walked through the door?
I knew in January that it was turning into a permanent deal. It had already been prearranged.
Right, so on that then, you said you knew that it was a building process. Did you know, I guess, the size of the club in itself? Or, like, you know, obviously you're coming from the Championship, you're going down to League One. We've already spoke off air about playing at the highest level that you want to. Was that a hard decision for you to make?
Yeah, obviously at the time I was at Millwall and playing in the Championship. So yeah, I had a decision to make, but you know, coming here and the infrastructure of the club and the history of the club, it kind of made it that little bit easier. And knowing the squad as well, how good the squad was for League One, I just felt it was the right time. You know, I've been at Millwall for 5 years as well. And, you know, I just felt like it was time for a change, and to come to a club as big as Wolves was and still is, you know, it kind of made it that little bit easier.
Is that something? Did you have to speak to family? Did you have to speak to friends? Did you call around? Did you know any players in the squad before you came?
Yeah, I knew Scotty. I'd spoke to Scotty Goldborn and just said how's things going, and you know, the usual stuff. And obviously it's then a decision that you have to make within your family. You know, you speak to your partners, and you know, because it is a move. It's a move. You have to, you know, uproot and you know, commit, almost go all in, and you know, it worked out.
Because how big a part did Kenny play in that? Because you played for him before.
Yeah, obviously Kenny was my Millwall manager as well, so he played a massive part, and you know, it was a fairly smooth transfer, really. You know, he called me and said that would it be something I was interested in, and you know, I said yeah, possibly, and you know, it sort of went from there.
Because I was trying to say to Looms earlier, like, Kenny liked to work with people he'd worked with before. Like Bennick had a loan spell with him before. I think George Savile had a loan spell with him before. Obviously you had. I think there probably will be 1 or 2 others. Did you get that from him? Like he was bringing you in. Obviously he knew you could do it in League One, but he also knew that you knew what he wanted from it.
Yeah, I think so. I think Kenny, he knew how to manage certain players, especially myself. He knew how to get the best out of me, and you know, we had a good relationship. So that was probably a factor in him thinking that I could come here and, you know, sort of do it straight away, not take too long to settle in, and just hit the ground running.
When you came to the group, you touched on it there already about the quality players. Obviously, League One, but it's not a given that they're going to just take the league by storm. Like when you come into was there any question mark over if you could fit in? Could you bring something positive to that squad? The quality players, but you have that belief in quality in yourself as well.
Yeah, I think whatever club you go to, you want to hit the ground running and prove to almost your teammates that you're a good player. You don't want to take too long to settle in, and I managed to do that. Luckily, I kind of hit the ground running, and
you did so. Yeah.
It was it was exciting. But even as a team, we were still building ourselves. It probably wasn't until after January that we sort of really kicked on. I think we had a couple of dodgy results leading up to January, and it was just sort of after that it all clicked, and we just took the league by storm.
Because you were effectively like almost part two of Kenny's rebuilding of probably three parts they did in that season. There was the initial summer bit, then there was kind of you and Michael Jacobs and viewers who came in, and then in that January when Lee Griffiths and a few others went, and Noor and a few others then came in. It was a process all the way through that year.
Yeah, it was a process. I think he was sort of mindful of it, that he was building for the Championship as well, because obviously we had a fantastic season, got ourselves into the Championship, but there wasn't then loads of change the following season. He had sort of built a squad that could get us promoted, but then also compete in the Championship, and we showed that in the following season. I think we were unlucky to not make the playoffs. I think was it the first team to get 76 points or 78 points and not make the playoffs. So we were unlucky that season, and probably my biggest regret of Wolves was not being able to get that last playoff spot that season.
Right at the start of your time there, when you came in, 2 assists on debut at Colchester, and I was saying to Looms before, 3 goals and 3 assists in the first 5 appearances. If there's ever a way to introduce yourself to a new club and a new set of fans, that's not a bad way of doing it.
Yeah, it sort of worked perfectly. I came in and hit the ground running, as I said earlier, and it just sort of kicked on from there. It's nice. You sort of get your feet under the rug, as they say, straight away, and sort of it just makes it that little bit easier to settle in.
I think you do score some very memorable goals. I'm surprised that you said that it's assisting, probably that you're it's a priority for you. Is that the truth coming out of you there? Is it like, because it's like one of them, there can't be a better feeling than scoring goals, but you seem like so level-headed, so all-round defensive responsibility, creating for others, but scoring must be...
There is no better feeling than scoring, but at the same time, I think football's such an all-round game now. It's not just about scoring. You have to be creating, and just as much you have to be doing your defensive duties and making sure the team's solid when they're out of possession. So there's a lot that goes into one game, really. It's not just I'm going to go out there and try and score as many as I can today. But the more I've changed positions now that I've gone a little bit more central, I am thinking more about, can I arrive in the box and score here, there, and it's less so much about assisting and more about scoring for myself now. But back then a big part of my game was laying on goals for others.
Can we talk about one of those goals and a big game of that season that kind of stood out from those of us on the outside point of view as a big moment in the year, which was the trip to Brentford, which was kind of late February. Brentford were up there challenging as well, and obviously you'd gone through, there was a bit of a change in January, the striker situation had changed and you're settling in, and then you go and produce this big performance at Brentford, including a goal from yourself. Did that at the time, did you as a group think, yeah, we're onto this now? I
think so. I think, at the time it was us, Brentford and Leyton Orient, that was sort of battling it out, as you say, for those top 2 spots, sorry. And to go away there, and it was a big game, us against, I think we were top at the time, or we might have been second, and it was top v second, and you know, it was a real big game, and we knew that if we went there and, you know, produced, it could really kick us on, and you know, it did. It was a good game. It was a really good game. I think Jakesy was unbelievable that day, and
Michael Jacobs
scored 2 goals himself, didn't he, that day? And you know, had a really good one.
Yeah, obviously you scored one.
Well, I have to say that he's saying it's a cross. James, can you just?
It wasn't a cross, but in all honesty,
please go hard on him. Go as hard as you want.
It wasn't a cross at all. I was definitely aiming.
It
for
looks
the
like
target,
a cross,
but I was aiming for the front post. So,
but you just hit the opposite back stanchion.
Back
in the corner,
peel around. Yeah. I thought I styled it out quite nicely. It looked like it was 100%. That's where I was aiming, because I've sort of shot and carried on running and celebrated. So
because it was a slightly weird angle to be going for, but you managed to pick it out.
Yeah, it was one of those ones where it's sort of like a hit and hope, and you know, luckily for us.
So there was some hope about it.
Well, obviously, I think every shot you hit is a bit of hope, isn't it?
Of course, of course.
So yeah, seeing it fly in the far top bins was very nice.
Now, I've got to say this, that I've never experienced this, but you go and you get that vital win, Leyton Orient. You win promotion, but you don't actually know until you're on the bus. So talk to me about that moment.
Yeah, that was a really sort of surreal moment. It was sort of job's done. I think, was that to win promotion, or was that to win
the title?
That was for the title.
So you won at Crewe.
Yeah, we won at Crewe, which was amazing. Obviously, all the fans ran on the pitch, and you know, after that sort of point, it just felt like, not that we didn't have to try, but it just felt like we could turn up and turn it on. It's sort of that surreal feeling where you just feel like you're invincible, and you know, the Leyton Orient game, it was sort of the icing on the cake, really.
Well, because it came, didn't it? Because they'd had the promotion moment at Crewe, and then you'd had the 6-4 against Rotherham.
Yeah, that was a crazy game, wasn't it? Yeah.
I mean, I'd never tire of talking about this, because say we had Jack Price in and Scott Goldborn in, and just even now, you ask fans what's the greatest 90 minutes you've seen, that will come up more often than not.
Yeah, it was. I think we had like 3 pitch invasions during the game, didn't we? It was crazy. Sam Ricketts scoring. I think he was the only player to not score up until that point in that season, and he scored a worldie to make it 5-4. So yeah, it was a very entertaining game.
Because you then go to Leyton Orient on Easter Monday, I think it was. So it was an early kick-off. It was on telly, and it was Leyton Orient was still trying to push.
Yeah, they were still going for third, I think, with Brentford at the time.
Yeah.
So you know, it was a big game for them as well, and you know, we just turned it on again. We actually started the game pretty poorly. I think Steers got us back into it, or was it Sacco? Steers, and then Sacco's deflected goal, and then
you ping one in from distance.
last minute. I'd just come back from a groin injury, and you know, I thought to myself, what am I doing shooting from this far out? Because it was still a little bit sore, but it was nice to see it fly in and celebrate with the travelling fans, because we had a great turnout that day as well.
So as Loom says, you were on the coach, because Brentford then dropped points, and that's what sealed it.
Yeah, that was it. So you know, we didn't actually fully know until we were on the way home. So it was you can imagine how good a ride home that was.
How were you watching like Soccer Saturday?
Yeah, we just had the Soccer Saturday on as you always did, and you know, I think we kind of knew anyway, because I think even if they won,
it was pretty much.
I think it was a case of our goal difference was astronomical. So I think we kind of knew with that win that we had done it.
So even with that group of players going into the Championship, were they ready for it? Was it, you know, obviously there's going to be new additions. But was there a great belief that we can go and do well in the Championship? Yeah,
I think so. I think we sort of hit the ground running the first few games. I think we beat Norwich at home, was it, in our first game, and you know, it was a big scalp, and we were like, yeah, we're here. And then we had a little dip off, and you know, it was kind of one of those ones where we felt like we could challenge and compete in that league straight away. I think we had some good players still, you know, Sacco and, you know, Bennick, and you know, we had Danny Bath at the back who was commanding, and Keames in goal. We had a real strong team that we believed was good enough to compete in that division, and you know, we made a good go of it.
It wasn't easy for you at the start of that though, was it? Because Rajiv Van La Parra had come in, and right at the start of the season, you kind of had to fight your way back into it.
Yeah, I did. I think that's the same with any good team. You know, you're always going to have competition. You're going to be in and out of the team at certain times, and you know, I just had to bide my time that season. And you know, I still think I played the majority of games in that season, but you know, it wasn't all plain sailing.
Because how hard is that? Because you know, as you say, you were Kenny's man. Kenny had brought you knew Kenny. Kenny knew you. He'd brought you in. You'd done the job in League One. And then he brings someone in your position.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. Me and Kenny had a strange relationship. Really, it was, you know, there could be a month where he would see something from me, even though he'd managed me for years, and he wouldn't like it, and it would be in his head for a month, and I'd know I'd just have to sort of bide my time and wait until I got that chance again, and then show him something else that he might not have seen in me. And you know, it was always sort of that to and fro in between us, and you know, we never actually had to speak that much. We kind of just knew with each other. He knew when I wasn't performing, I knew myself when I wasn't performing, that sometimes I might have to come out of the team for a little bit and, you know, train that a little bit extra harder and, you know, get myself back on form.
Yeah, but competition does get the best out of you.
Yeah, definitely.
We already touched on it with Doherty. You know, I think he's had that time where he's got to fight for his place yourself. But that can go one or two ways. There's players that, like you say, they've got that relationship with the manager. They're thinking, why is he doing this to me? Why is he bringing in a player? I've heard all those gripes, those moans. Well, wait a minute, I've scored this many goals. Why is he bringing in another striker? But it drives you. But some players can have head loss and they go the other way as well.
It's different. Everyone's different, aren't they? Everyone has different mental spaces, and some people like the competition. Some people like to be the main man, as I say. And you know, I think in any walk of life, you just have to do the best you can. And you know, if things aren't going well, you've got to be the one that makes it go well.
So if some people like to be the main man, some people like competition, which do you fall into?
It's nice to be the main man, isn't it? But at the same time, obviously, competition only breeds better performances, I think.
Did it help in all that scenario that you knew what Kenny was like? Because you mentioned him not talking to you for a month or so. Like, I can fully imagine that.
Yeah, I think so. I think we sort of just had understood how to manage each other, if that makes sense. He knew when he'd need to speak to me, and I knew when I needed to speak to him. We were never like two to fly off at each other or anything like that. It was just a relationship that we've built up over the years.
Again, looking at scoring against your old club as well, that must be it's one of them. When I had a lot of clubs, so I done it on a few occasions, but it is special, isn't it? You get a little extra 10%, 15% out of yourself when you come up against. You've got a point to prove, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely. I think I played against Reading sort of 4 or 5 times and scored in 3 of them, I think. It's one of those ones where it is always nice, and you always think, oh, should I celebrate? But I think adrenaline just takes over, and I.
Well, your celebration.
Did you? So you celebrated as well?
Yeah. A bit disrespectful, but it's one of those ones. Madness of the game, you can't help but celebrate. Well,
because we've got to talk about it, because I was showing Looms some videos of your goals, and you celebrate, you run more in celebrations than you would do in the build-up to the goal.
I was saying to Looms, it's just to get my stats up. Yeah, Kenny liked his stats, so it was an extra sprint on my records.
Because did you ever plan a celebration?
No, very rarely. Very, very rarely. It was just sort of let the emotion take over.
Did you ever plan a celebration, Looms?
I had a few players come up to me, and I remember Wardy, Stephen Ward used to come up and say, "Oh, right, if you score, I want you to." But yeah, it was just one of those things. But you know, when you're in that vein, sometimes you just, you know, you're gonna get on the get a goal, and I usually just like to go to the corner, keep myself to myself. You know, Jarvo, I had to apologise to Jarvo on here because he made a great assist for me. I went to celebrate him about a metre from him. I've turned and went to the fans, and he's jumped brilliant. Up. It was. When I look back, I cussed it, mate. It was cussed all that and the rest. You know what I mean? But I've planned a few in my
See, because this is the thing, because you would like jog away to the corner and stuff, so everybody can come and join you. Whereas you, James, like you're sprinting away. If I was on your team, I'd be like, I'm leaving him. I'm letting him go.
I was normally knackered after.
No, that's what I'm knackered. That's why I'm jogging to the corner, so I can the longest point from to the centre circle for my rest walking back. But you're sprinting, mate. That's not me. It's not me at all.
Well, because we've got to talk about the Bolton goal.
Yeah.
Because there's two parts to it. So we'll talk about the goal first and then the celebration aspect of it afterwards. Because it's 2-1 down, deep into stoppage time of that game.
Yeah.
And the ball drops to you midway inside their half. It's good 40 yards.
I think it was a long ball from Keames and it sort of broke, sort of just outside the centre circle. I think it was Bennett, was it? No, it might have been Danny Bath who just got a toe on it. And I don't really know what I was thinking shooting from quite that far out. It was a long way out, wasn't it? But, it sailed and, the celebration was... that was one where literally I just couldn't control it. I didn't know what I was doing. I think I ran past every single one of our players. I think Keames thought I was running to celebrate with him. And then he was like, I've done the same thing. Like, give him the custard pie. Like, he's put his arm out. I've just gone like that in front of the fans. And I think they almost scored, didn't they? They kicked off as we were, because we were all in our own half. And, it was one thing that I took from that is to never run.
Well, you were all off the pitch. That was the thing.
That was it.
Stay in their half. That's the thing.
Yeah, but we had literally turned round and we're looking and we're like, what's going on? They were attacking us. So it would have been a bit nuts if they had gone and scored a winner.
Because I love it. I remember that goal so much because obviously we're up in the press box, so we've got like the high, wide view of it, and I've just seen him hit it, and he's gone sprinting off, and he's got hairs flowing as he's gone powering off and gone into the away end behind the goal. Keames has run into it. Everyone else has run into it, and I remember being on commentary going, "They've kicked off." And Keames is like the first one to notice.
And he's sort of gone, oh God, what's going on? So it was a moment of panic after that.
Because we also had it as well on our commentary. There's some Bolton fans in front of us, and they were great with us all game, and we're kind of chatting and bantering with them at half time and stuff. And I always remember it because on commentary I said like James Henry, and he's stolen it. And the guy turned around, and you can hear it on the commentary. Goes, "You have stolen."
Do you know what? I'm not gonna lie. I have seen the commentary back, and it was a memorable one from yourself, Mikey.
It was a big goal though, wasn't it? It was a big moment as well.
It was, yeah. It was a good point away from home at the time. We weren't. I think we not won for like 5. Or we'd lost quite a few in a row.
I think we were kind of on the way out of a difficult spell.
So it was sort of like keeping the momentum going, and it wasn't. Was this the second season in the Champ?
I will look that up in a second, but
I think it was. We weren't flying.
No.
I thought every point counted at that stage. Obviously, we were well safe come the end of the season, but it was an important goal.
And I think it was 14-15.
Was it?
It was kind of at this moment.
Rubbish then, but yeah.
It was just at this moment where you just had a home draw, goalless draw with Charlton, and you had that kind of moment where it's like, where's this season going to go now?
Yeah, possibly. I remember I hadn't been playing too much at the time actually, and even after, I think I remember scoring that goal, and then I don't think I entered the field for the next 3 games. So it was kind of a weird moment for me at Wolves at the time, but it was a big point in the end then. It's a shame it wasn't for a win, because that would have pushed us into the playoffs.
Well, because the next away game was the big victory at Huddersfield, and then there was a defeat at Norwich, but then there was a big win, 5-0 over Rotherham, 3-0 over Fulham, went away and won at Cardiff, where I think Steers had cleared it off the line in the last minute, and then there was the Watford game, which had the famous Jack Price lift up celebration that we talked about with him, and it's kind of it began that period where you say you very, very close, only goal difference kept you out of the playoffs. Yeah,
it was disappointing obviously for goal difference to be the deciding factor come the end of the season. I remember being on the bench on the last game of the season. I think we had Millwall at home, and we were there watching the other results, and we were like, oh no, we need to score 2 or 3 goals, and it was nuts.
Would it have been too soon to have got promotion with that group of players?
I don't think.
If there's ever a thing of too soon.
I don't think there's ever too soon to get promoted to the Premier League, but it possibly could have. There's been a change of ownership since then, and a big boost of money come into the club. So I think that's obviously helped the club to progress. And I think it was just a shame that we didn't get a chance to have a go at it, because we had a good group of players at that time, and it would have been nice to get them into the Premier League.
Because that was the end of Sacco. He'd gone at the end of that season. Yeah. Neuer then got injured at the start of the next season, and Benick ended up leaving as well. So that was kind of the end of what I would term as the Fabulous Four. Yeah,
definitely. I think it was sort of the end of the start of the rebuild. I think obviously everyone knew it was not a short-term thing. It was sort of a 5-6 year plan to get the club back to where they wanted to be. And I think everyone that had played a part up to at that point sort of started leaving, and new people were coming through the door, and it was changing again. It was sort of kicking up again. There was new players coming in, better players, and it was it was a crazy time.
I think with a manager, I think I'll speak about Mick McCarthy here. I think he protected the squad a lot. And I think that's a responsibility of a manager. I don't believe a manager should go out publicly and say anything, but there is expectation to get promoted. Is that something that the manager, did it filter into the squad, or was it something that you knew that he was under pressure to get results? Is that something that was very evident?
Yeah, I think Kenny, even in that League One season when we won the league, he was bringing us in all the time. He wanted to break the record. He always wanted to win and do things right, and I think he always wanted us to perform to the best that we could. I think I'm not sure that season he had sort of promotion in mind. I think it was just establishing ourselves as a Championship club again. And I think we've done that, and probably done a little bit more than we needed to that season. But as I said, just being so close was such a shame just to fall short.
Because did that bring extra pressure then for the following season? Because I think it certainly did from supporters.
I think so. I think we then thought we might have cracked this. We can really push for the top two even. And that season didn't quite work out like that. It was a little bit of a disappointing season. Albeit we still regained our Championship status, and then it changed again, and Kenny left, and Walter Zenga came in, new owner, and then that's when there was the bigger change. There was a lot of change then, and sort of a lot of people started leaving, and sort of a whole new atmosphere was being created around the club.
We're going to talk about that on the podcast extra, and we'll also talk about the Fabulous Four, or was it a 4? Was it a 3 from the Dicko Afobe Sacco? Because you were left out of the song.
I have my own song there, which is kind of nice.
We're just going to finish off this little part with what we call the rundown. And I know we're springing this on you, but we like to try and get just a quick name out there, and we'll go into it a bit more on the podcast. So
I'll go first.
I'll go on then.
Mix it up.
Oh, okay.
Best player that you played with at Wolves?
Probably Kevin McDonald.
Okay. Yeah. Who was the worst trainer at the club?
Matt Doherty.
I tell you what, Bob. This is the rundown done properly. Yeah. Biggest moaner. You can include yourself.
Yeah, a lot of people probably say.
They have,
yeah. Yeah, me.
Who was your best friend at Wolves?
Probably Danny, Bath and Docs.
Best and worst dress sense?
Best. I'm going to give him it to the same person, Scott Goldborn.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, he's got a bit.
He's got a bit, and he's also got a bit of dodgy gear as well. So I'm going to give him both titles there.
Okay. Who was the funniest player that you played with?
That's Kev Mack. Easy one, that.
We're going to get some stories on him in the podcast extra.
Best manager you work with?
Kenny Jackett, and as a coach, I only had him briefly, but Brendan Rodgers was a top coach.
What was the best goal that you scored for Wolves?
It was Bolton. Has to be, doesn't it? Or maybe the Sheffield Wednesday goal.
Because I like the Sheffield Wednesday goal.
The Sheffield Wednesday one was nice, and it was with the lefty. What
was the best game that you were involved in?
It was definitely the Rotherham game at home. It was just a crazy atmosphere, and it was exciting. And
what was your proudest moment at Wolves?
Achieving promotion. After the club had a tough couple of years, it was a cool moment to be involved in.
We're going to go into so much more on the podcast extra. I especially want to try and get some stories out of you of Kev McDonald and some of his antics around the training ground. He's smiling already. And we'll talk a bit more, about what kind of happened and eventually with you leaving the football club as well, and what you're up to now, because you're still playing, because you're still young. Probably the youngest person next to Jack Price that we're going to have on this podcast. So it'll be good to hear from all that as well. As ever, if you want to get in contact with us, at Wolves across social media is how to get in touch. Old Gold Club at wolves.co.uk as well. And also give a follow to our sponsors at WV Build Supplies on Twitter. Make sure you download that full podcast from all the usual places as well. Thanks for watching.
The Old Gold Club, powered by Wolverhampton Building Supplies, with Mikey Burrows and Chris Iwelumo.